Think DaVinci Resolve is just for video editing? Think again. Why is a powerhouse for videos? Today, we are unlocking a hidden gem using DaVinci Resolve for image-based designs like thumbnail or layered graphics. But here's a catch. While you could create visuals in Resolve, photo editing software is built for it. And it works perfectly as a sidekick to your editing workflow. In today's video, I will show you how to design a layered graphic in Photo Editor and bring them to DaVinci Resolve with all layer fully recognized, ready for animations, color tweaks, or visual effects. Whether you are a content creator, motion graphic, or you're just looking to streamline your workflow, this technique could change how you approach your thumbnails or graphics forever. Let's jump in and get started. Usually I say let's head over to DaVinci, but today we are going to head over to Affinity Designer 2. Okay. However, you could also use Photoshop, Illustrator, or other photo editing software. Okay, so here we are in Affinity Designer 2. Okay, so here I already have something here that looks like a thumbnail. So before we begin, based on the method that I'm going to use here, the size of your project is going to matter a lot. Okay, so the size of my project in DaVinci Resolve is 4K. Okay, so which is 3840 by 2160. So because I'm going to rasterize a lot of my layers here, I also want to make sure that I have the same size here. Okay, that I have the same 4K. But the problem is, this image right here is not 4K, and I believe this is 1280 by 720. So this is the size of thumbnails, and I'm trying to export this to DaVinci. And based on the method that I'm going to use here, this won't work. Even though there are other ways as usual to go around this. Okay. So when you rasterize anything, you are going to lose the vector shape. Okay. So the vector shape, we spoke about it on my last video. Okay. Because I'm going to rasterize it and I'm going to lose some of that vector shape, the best thing is to use the same size here as well. So I'm going to create a new project or a new page here, and I'm going to make sure that I open a new page that has the same size as 4K, okay, which is 3840 by 2160. Okay, so I'm going to create, boom. All right. So I'm going to head back to that image and I'm going to copy all the layers here. I'm going to copy all these layers and I'm going to go back here to that 4K and I'm going to paste it. As you can see, the size are different. However, all the shapes here are vector shapes. So it's going to be easy to scale them. Let me select every layer here so I could scale everything at once. Now scale this individually how I want them to be. Okay, so let's make this a bit bigger. All right, put them this way. Maybe I should bring this lower. Does this work? All right, let's say this works. Okay, so let me head to the background and put a little gradients to it. All right. I just did this quickly just to demonstrate what I'm trying to do here. So as you can see, I was able to scale that little picture to 4K without losing any sharpness or value here. If I take this shape right now, I had this shape like this, and let's say I rasterize it with this size. Let's do that right now. If I rasterize this, rasterize. All right, so now this shape is no longer a vector shape, it's now a pixel shape. All right, so if I increase it, as you can see, it's losing its sharpness. Okay, so the bigger it gets, the more it loses its sharpness or the more it starts to pixelate. Okay, so let's head back. So that's the difference between vector shape and rasterized shape, or when you rasterize it. So you need to be careful when to rasterize it and when not to rasterize it. This is also the reason why I make sure I change the page to a 4K page, okay? Because I'm going to transport it to DaVinci that already has a 4K project. All right, so let's begin to rasterize our groups here. So I have two images here working here to make this 3D world here. I have two layers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two layers and I'm going to group them, Command G, which is also the same command to group nodes on the Fusion page. All right, so Command G, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to rasterize this. Okay, so now this has been turned to a pixel image. So I'm just going to change the name to PSD. So this image here with the shadow like stuff here, I'm going to group them again, Command G, and I'm going to rasterize it too. Because when you combine those two and rasterize it, DaVinci is not going to recognize all the groups as one layer. Let's head back here. So this image here, prior to rasterizing it, if you look at this image, it has a lot of components to it, okay? Has a lot of little designs here and there. These are all layers, separate layers, which is why I grouped them together and rasterize them, all right? So that way, we don't have a lot of layers when you transport it to DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to first group them. Group. All right. So now rasterize it after grouping them. Okay. So I'm just going to say shape here. And let's head to files. Files also has a lot of components to it. Okay. It's already grouped. So I'm going to rasterize it. And I'm going to name the files. Okay. And I'm going to do the same to the background as well. Rasterize. Let's just put a background. So this is just how I made it easy for myself. Okay. Remember, there are ways to keep the vector shape and still export it to DaVinci Resolve. Okay. But this is how I found it so much easier for myself. So I didn't rasterize the DaVinci Resolve here, okay, because there's no need to, I don't believe. So we are going to see how that works out. All right, so we are done here. So we are going to export this as a PSD file, okay? So we're going to export this as a PSD file. Make sure you export it as a PSD file. So you hit export. Okay, let's name this, I don't know, non-vector. Non-vector. Okay. Yeah, you could pick any name you want to. It doesn't matter. So we are going to head over to DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so now we are in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so we are just going to bring an adjustment clip here. Okay, let's going to increase this. So we are going to head to Fusion. All right, so now we have a lot of options here. Okay, so we are going to head to where we saved them, the PSA file. Okay, so now I'm going to drag that file to the node tree here, and you're going to see it as a media 2. So let's put this in the viewer. So when you put this on the viewer, I'm only seeing DaVinci Resolve. However, we could go to the inspector and we could look for where it says layer, and we could pick any layer here. Okay, so as you can see, when you pick PSD, you're going to see the PSD layer. If you put shape, you're going to see the shape. If you pull file, you're going to see the file. And if you put the background, you're going to see the background. Okay, or you could just select merge. All right, so now when you select merge, you get to see everything here. So you might ask, how can we edit individual layers? Well, there are several options here. Okay, so before we get to how we could edit each layer with this media in, let's also check out another way we could import those files here. So that way we have individual layers as its own node. All right, so we could do that by heading to Fusion and select import. Now select PSD. And now you could select the files that you saved from here. When you open it from here, again, all the layers has its node. Okay, let's put this to the viewer. Okay. From here, you could add a transform node to each node here. And of course, you can move them individually. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. You could add it to shape. You could add transform to shape. Okay, so from here you could do whatever you like. You could even add, let's say, a color corrector. Okay, change all the colors here. You could even add shadows and so forth and so on. Okay, boom. So that's easy enough. You could use it this way. Okay, so from here you have a lot of merge here. Okay, it says normal. All right, so that's because Affinity Designer you could apply normal the same way you could add all the stuff here. In Affinity Designer you have the same options. So that's why you have all these merges has normal as the name here. But those are merge nodes. So what about over here? So over here, let's go back to that media in that we dragged directly from our files to DaVinci Fusion here. Okay. So let's connect this to media out. Okay, let's put this to the file. So over here, let's say I add transform node 2. So if we go to transform node, now if we move this, we're moving everything. But we could also move individual layers here as well. We could head to settings and we could head to input layer and we could select the nodes here. Okay. And now the nodes appears here. Okay. So now you are only selecting that node. And if you look at the nodes, you could see the layered sign over here as well. Okay. So you could go to settings here and you could change any layer here. Okay. Files. Okay. Or you could head the background. We could head to whatever node that you have, you could select it here as well. Okay. So you could pick two nodes here and you could do something like that. All right. Let's go back to default layer. Okay, so we could also arrange this differently using the multi-merge. All right. So the multi-merge is just doing the same thing that all of these nodes are doing, but you're using less node and you're using the multi-merge. Okay, so let's see how we could set that up. All right, so let's bring down the multi-merge. Again, it's just the same thing that we did here. We just that we're gonna have less node and we are going to have a layer list, sort of kind of like those layers in Affinity Designer. So we could get a background here. Okay, and we could attach this to this multi-merge and we could reduce the alpha to 0. So now what we could do here is we could simply attach this here to the merge node. All right. So this is the layer here. However, could go to the layer option here and we could select the first layer. Let's say the first layer is the background and we could connect it again. Okay. So it's best to rename this so that way you know which layer. All right. So we're going to rename this to background. Okay, so we're going to rename the next one to PSD. We're going to rename it to PSD. Okay, and we're going to do it again. Let's just keep it here. All right. So from here, we could control each layer individually. Okay, we could control the file here. We could select the shape and we could move it here. We could select the PSD and we could move it from here. All right. So that way you could animate it from here and you could apply anything that you want to apply as well. Okay. Let's say you want to apply color corrector. You could apply color corrector. Let's say you choose files. You could choose files. Okay. And you could change the colors. All right. So when you apply anything here, now you have to select what layer that you want that node to affect. Okay. So that's how that will work here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you could transport graphics from Affinity Designer or any photo editing software to DaVinci Resolve with all layers fully recognized. Okay. And you are also able to animate or add any color correctors or any other effects in DaVinci Resolve. With that being said, I will catch you on the next video. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel if you like what you saw, or if you like to be able to be notified the next time we drop a video. Okay, so see you on the next video. Peace.